Hello and welcome back to another Unreal Engine tutorial. This is, I believe, part 3 in the horror project, but this is part 2 considering flashlights. So now what we have in this part is we have the flashlight, we fixed the movement, so the movement is much better. You'll see there's rotation lag on the flashlight, and on top of that we can actually throw it, and the flashlight will stay on if you kept it on. However, if we turn it off, it will stay off, and you can turn it on and off while it's on the floor. So that's what we're going to get to by the end of this tutorial here, and I hope you enjoy. So to start off, we're going to go ahead and head into our item pickup master here. We're going to find some empty space, and we're going to right click and type custom event. We're going to go ahead and name it clamp physics. All right. Then we're going to go up to the top here, and we're going to right click again and do another custom event. We're going to name it setup item. Now we're going to go ahead and actually leave this blank up here. The whole reason we're having a setup item is because if you remember, our flashlight pickup is inherited based on the item pickup master here. And so if we actually add a setup item here and compile and save, heading over to flashlight pickup under override, which override is you get to choose what function you want to add, you'll actually see setup item is there. So it allows us to basically universally add an event that can be carried on through each item. And it just makes things substantially easier because you can either leave it unchecked and not use it, or leave it checked and it gets activated. So what we need to do is just have setup item here under the item pickup master and leave it like I said. But over here under clamp physics, we're gonna go ahead and add a branch. And if you don't know, you can hold B and click and it will actually add a branch. Have use physics clamp here. We're going to drag it into the condition. Then after that, we're going to add a delay. You can hold D and click as well to do the same thing. We're going to change it to about 2 seconds. Then after that, we're going to grab our static mesh right here and we're going to drag it in. Drag off of that and do set simulate physics. So this is the physics clamping. We made the variable earlier, but now we actually set it up. The reason for physics clamping is that whenever we're going to set up throwing the object later, when you throw it, it's going to roll infinitely if the collision is a cylinder, like our flashlight. So we need to stop it from rolling infinitely. So here, after 2 seconds, the object will stop rolling and it will come to a complete stop and stick. And, that way your object doesn't infinitely roll away from you. So now we're going to go ahead and hit compile and save. We're going to go ahead and just open up our normal item master here. So that was under interactables items. We're going to open up our item master here. Now what we're going to do is we're also going to delete all these nodes here. We're going to do another custom event. We're actually going to do the same setup item. I'm going to leave it blank as well. And that's actually all we have to do here. So compile and save. Now we're going to go ahead and head into our first person character, and this is where we're going to go ahead and set up throwing the item and getting rid of it from your inventory. So now we're going to go down here and we're going to find some big room here, and we're going to right click and do drop item, which was our key event that we created. Now off of this, we're going to drag off and get an is valid, and it'll be the one with the question mark icon. So down here at the bottom, and then we're going to grab our current item and plug that into the input object. Now we're going to go ahead off of the current item and get the item pickup. Get item pickup. This is getting the master class of the pickup item that will be thrown on the ground. And then we're going to drag off of is valid and we're going to spawn actor from class. Go ahead and split this spawn transform here. Set this to try to adjust location but always spawn. Then we're going to split the rotation pin here again. Oop. We're going to drag this into the class, of course. And then now we need to go ahead and set what rotation the objects will be when they're thrown. The way I have it set is that it'll be 90 degrees perpendicular to whatever the character is looking. So go ahead and over here, we're going to do get player character. After player character, we're going to go ahead and do get mesh. Move this over. To get mesh, we're going to get world rotation. We're going to go ahead and split this structure pin. We're going to plug in the X and the Y into spawn actor. But here on the Z, we're gonna do a subtract. We're gonna go ahead and subtract from 90 degrees and plug it back into the Z here. What that's doing is it's taking in front of the character's head where they're looking, turning the object 90 degrees to the right, and then plugging it back in so that it will permanently be 90 degrees in front of the player. But now we also need to get the location. So up here at the top, we're gonna go ahead and drag in our follow camera. Then we're gonna go ahead and do get world location. We're also gonna do get forward vector. After getting these two, we're gonna go ahead on this one and drag out and do a multiply. All right, then we're gonna drag off of this and do an add. I'm gonna drag it to the second pin and we're gonna plug in the get world location to the top one there. Now this one, we're gonna right click on this orange pin and we're gonna change it to a float. And go ahead and change that float value to 80. I'm gonna make a little bit of room here because we're actually gonna add a comment. So hovering over this and selecting it, press C, and we're just gonna type how far in front of player. Because basically that's what this node is doing, is it's determining how far in front of the player the object is gonna spawn. So just leave this comment here so in case you wanna tweak it later, you know where. And then go ahead and drag this add into the spawn transform location there. Now off of the return value right here, we're gonna go ahead and drag off of it and we're gonna say set is active. This is going to be the next part of the code that we're doing. This is gonna set up the flashlight being on carrying over to from the pickup to the item master. So no matter what you do, it still makes it look like it's the same flashlight. Then we're gonna grab our current item. We're gonna drag off of current item and we're gonna get is active. Plug that in here. Then we're gonna drag off of here and we're gonna do clamp physics that we created earlier and plug that in here. Go ahead and create a node here and just drag it straight up pretty high. Make another node and connect it up here and then even them out. And we're actually gonna drag off this node. We're gonna do set up item. Put it in there. Do the same thing where you click to add a node and then level it to the top so it's organized. And up top here, we're gonna get the static mesh. Then we're gonna go ahead and do add impulse. Now an impulse is applying force to a certain direction. Drag off the impulse and do a multiply. Off of the top pin here, we're gonna do get actor forward vector. And then we're gonna go highlight and we're gonna create another comment here and we're just gonna call this throw force. So again, if you need to tweak it, you can change it here later. So what this is doing is it's applying a impulse force. So normally it would just drop the item in front of you. If you want that to happen, just delete the impulse and throw force here and just continue to the next node here, which would actually be called, let me grab it real quick so you actually know. Get your current item and then drag off of it and we're gonna do detach from actor. So what you would do is delete this add impulse, delete the throw force, and just put setup item directly into detach from actor, and you can delete the static mesh too. If you do that, it'll just drop directly in front of your face straight down. However, I wanted it to get thrown. So this throw force here, we're actually gonna do 250 for both the X and the Y, and we're gonna leave Z at 0. What this is on the X and the Y axis, it'll throw it straight that direction. Z includes up and down, but I didn't want that. You can add it if you'd like, but basically it'll throw it straight forward no matter where you're looking, and it'll have this force of 250, so you can change that however you'd like. But continuing here after detach from actor, we're gonna drag our current item and set it. We're gonna set it as nothing because we just got rid of our item, so we need to clear it. Now we need to also set our current item type and make it none as well. Let's go ahead and compile and save. And now if you play your game, you can actually pick up your flashlight here and you can go ahead and press G and it will throw it directly on the ground. It'll roll, do physics clamp and stop, and then you can pick it up again and then you can throw it again. This reminds me we should actually probably turn off visible line trace. So let's go ahead and do that now. So in your player character, let's go ahead and find right here our shoot trace. If we double click on that to open the function again, we can change for duration for draw debug type to none, and it'll get rid of that line for you. Now let's go ahead and head to our flashlight pickup. We're gonna change that it being carried over depending on if the light's on. So this flashlight beam, click on it. You're gonna type visibility. You're gonna enable it to false by default. Let's go ahead and also go to our flashlight master and do the exact same thing. Spotlight, visibility. This is named Spotlight here, so I'm gonna go ahead and rename it and make it flashlight beam. So it's just so it's the same as the other one. And then compile and save. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is under our flashlight pickup, I'm gonna drag these together. Under our flashlight pickup here, we're gonna go ahead and leave everything, or leave only event begin play, so delete these two. And then we're actually gonna drag our flashlight beam. And we're gonna go ahead and go over here to override. And remember that we did the setup item. We're actually gonna choose setup item here. So on event setup item, we're gonna go ahead and drag off of this flashlight beam and we're gonna say set visibility. We're gonna plug it both into setup item and into event begin play. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna get is active. After getting is active, we're gonna plug it into new visibility and compile and save. And what this is saying is that whenever we drop the flashlight master, it's gonna check and see, hey, was the flashlight beam on or off on the flashlight pickup that was taken, or the flashlight master that was taken. And it's gonna go ahead and set it, as well as at the beginning of the game, depending on what you set your visibility, it's gonna change that as well. Now what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna find some space at the bottom here and do secondary interact. Since we have the interface here, our secondary interact is our right click. We're gonna double click on that to add one. We're gonna go ahead and hold branch here. And then we're gonna also get our is active again. You can go ahead and copy and paste from right here. Drag it into here. Then we're gonna go ahead and get our flashlight beam. We're gonna drag off of that and also do set visibility. You can copy and paste again. Then we're gonna drag true into the top, false into the bottom. I'm just gonna organize it, make them a little bit closer. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the top one false, the bottom one true, and then we're gonna do set is active, right here connected. We're gonna make this one true, copy and paste at the top there, make this one false, and that's it for this flashlight right here. Now we can actually go ahead and copy every single thing here except for the events. So drag and copy that, and then we can hold shift and copy these as well, and then press Control C, and then head over to our flashlight master here. And then we're just gonna go ahead and Control V here. Let's actually leave these nodes here just in case. We're not using them right now, and this is basically saying it's inheriting it from the parent, so let's just leave it. Let's do another custom event. Actually, no, we're not doing a custom event, we're overriding. So yeah, override here, and we're also gonna do the setup item again. We're gonna do that for set visibility up here. Now at the bottom, we're gonna create a custom event. We're gonna name it toggle light. There we go. And go ahead and plug it into the branch here and compile and save. And that's actually it for both our flashlights here. They use the exact same code. Now let's go ahead and head to our first person character here. We need to set up the secondary interact. We have the code set up for the flashlights, but not the secondary interact to work. So going back in here, let's go and head up to the top here. And let's go ahead and type secondary interact right here. It'll be the IA underscore secondary interact, not the message, since we did name an event also secondary interact. We're gonna grab our current item type. We're gonna drag off of it and say switch on enum. Now this is an amazing little thing that I discovered here not long ago actually. Switch on enum is the best. So it's basically saying depending on this, it's gonna go a different route. And I love using it in code because it's so nice for organization. You don't have to do a bunch of branches. You can just do it on one enum. So here on none, so the way we're going to set this up is that if you are holding an item like a flashlight or a camera, it's going to trigger to interact with the item in your hand. If you're holding nothing, it's going to shoot another interact beam so you can do a second interact on an item. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag off of here. We're going to say shoot trace. I noticed I say what we're going to do a lot. So it's not intentional, but I've gotten so used to it, I don't even notice most of the time. So go ahead and type in 300 as the trace distance like the other one. Under interface, we're going to do the BPI underscore interaction. And then off of here, we're going to drag off the hit actor, and we're going to do secondary interact, and this one's the message. Under interacting player, we're going to drag off, and we're going to do self. That's it for this top part. Now the bottom section here for flashlight, we're going to drag off, and we're going to say cast to BP underscore, and it's going to be flashlight master. And then we're going to drag off of the current item here and plug that into the object. As flashlight master, we're then going to toggle the light. There we go. That's actually it here. So the reason we casted, so a cast is trying to connect a node to a specific, it's trying to connect a node to a specific object in the world. So it's saying if our current item is the flashlight, it'll continue. If it doesn't, the cast is going to fail. And it's very unlikely the cast will fail. If we set it as flashlight, it would just mean that the enum is bugged. It's very unlikely the cast will fail, but again, this is actually how you make it to the flashlight, is getting a reference to it. So now if we actually go in and play our game, that should be the flashlight completely set up. So it drops down there. If we right click it, it will turn on and off. If we pick it up while it's off, then it will stay off. If we turn it on and then drop it, it will stay on. There's the physics clamping there. Now if I pick it up again, ooh, it's off. So we're gonna have to go ahead and fix that. So I actually forgot some code that we're supposed to put at the end here just because I didn't assume to look at the end of this long bit here. But at the end, we actually need to set it, we need to set it to what we need basically. So we're gonna have to go ahead actually to the beginning here of the picked up item and do get is active. If we get the is active, we're gonna drag it all the way over here. Let's do like right there. And then we're gonna add a pin here to organize it. Like I've said 300 times. We're gonna drag off of the current item here. We're gonna do set is active. We're gonna plug it in here. Then we're gonna do dragging off the current item. We're gonna do the setup item. I didn't actually have the functionality for setup item available, so it wasn't setting up the item. Compile and save, and let's go ahead and try again. All right, so we're in. Go ahead, right click it, turns on, pick it up, it's on, drop it, turn it off. It stays off, turn on, drop, stays on, on. Let's do off. Yep, all right, we got it working now, cool. So now we're gonna go ahead and work on some player movement. If you just wanna do the flashlight bit, that's it, it's done for now. However, if you wanna work on player movement, like for example, we're gonna go fully Phasmophobia here just because I don't like how, one, if you do this and drop the item, your character's head, I think, sticks backwards. Yeah, you get stuck backwards. And the only way to fix that is to disable some code that we did. So it'll get stuck like that, and on top of that, it'll make the flashlight tilting much better. So it looks like we actually got a blueprint runtime error attempted to access. So it didn't access it in our secondary interact. So let's go ahead and do this. Drag off of the hit actor and type is valid. That's the #1 way to fix that issue, is if you just validate it first before you put it into the target, because it's failing to access it for some reason. Just in case, I'm gonna go ahead and leave this here. So you do this code as well, compile and save. I'm gonna go ahead and play the game real quick and see if there's any bugs from adding this. There absolutely shouldn't be, but I'm gonna check anyway. Yeah, no, we're completely fine. I had no issues doing that. So now let's actually set up a sprinting system for the character while we're inside of here. And we actually need to set up a sprint function. So go to your content drawer down here, go to content, third person, input, open IMC default like before. And we're also gonna go to actions, and you're gonna right click, do input, input action, IA underscore sprint. Open it up. Go ahead and let's do under triggers here. You're gonna go ahead and add an array element and you're gonna change it to hold. And you can save this and close it out. That's all we have to do. Back in our IMC default, let me close this stuff here. Go ahead and add a new mapping. And then that mapping is going to be our sprint. Drop it down. We're gonna press this keyboard button and press left shift. Then here under triggers, we're gonna add a new one and we're gonna make it hold. Go ahead and save and close that out. That's all we have to do. So now if we go to our first person character here, I'm gonna find some room. I like to do over here near the character input for movement and camera stuff. So go ahead and right click and just type sprint. Should be the only thing that comes up. Yep. Sprint there. We're gonna drag off let's do this, the character movement right here. Drop down this right here. We're gonna drag off of this and we're gonna do set max walk speed. Control C, Control V to make another one. I'm gonna plug completed into the bottom one here. I'm gonna plug triggered. I don't know why I can't say plug today. Whoa, I'm slurring my words like crazy. We're gonna drop these down here. I'm gonna do this. Huge on organization, as you can see. I'm very OCD. All right. Then we're gonna create a new variable and we're just gonna have one called sprinting, question mark. Compile and save, and we're gonna add it to a category here and we're just gonna name it movement. All right, so we're gonna drag off sprinting and we're gonna set it. So here at the top, we're gonna say yes to sprinting, Control C, Control V, put it into here, and we're gonna say it's not sprinting when it's here. Top value, let's do something like 400. Bottom value, let's do something like 250. Go ahead and drag it over here, and let's make a comment, and let's just call it sprinting. Speaking of which, we should probably go and organize everything else as well. So this top part here, let's go ahead and take all this and move it somewhere where we have more room to work with because it's going to be a long series of code after we add a ton of items. So comment this and we're just going to name it secondary interact. Off of this, we're going to do spawn item. I like over here too, the show bubble when zoomed. I like to add that because it'll actually show when you're zoomed out where everything is. Over here, we're gonna do interact. Then at the top here, we're gonna do equip item. See if there's anything else I left. Over here, so we're gonna do that here as well, and we're gonna do event begin play. Make sure the show bubble when zoomed for all of them is active. There we go, that is much better. Make sure it doesn't clip into another one too though. File it and save. So now we have sprinting. However, I want the bobbing of the idle animation while you're holding an object to go up while you're sprinting. So open APB Mani here, the animation sequence that we had here. And we're gonna go ahead and create two new variables here. Oh, actually, let's just create one for now. There's an easier way to set up the other one. Press the plus on the new variable, and we're just gonna go ahead and name it play rate. We're gonna make it a float. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and create a new pin here and make some more space. Go ahead down here under components. We're gonna grab the character. We're gonna drag off of that and do get is sprinting. Here, hold up. Save. Did I compile the player? Save. It's because I said is. It's not is. It's get sprinting. Get sprinting. There we go. Then drag off of this, and we're gonna do promote to variable. And that's where we're gonna drag in this connected bit here. Right down here. Oh, good Lord. Right there. All right, cool. Then after sprinting here, we're gonna get a branch. Then we're gonna set our play rate here. So the top here, if it's true, we are sprinting, play rate of 3. And if we're not sprinting, play rate of 1. So this is how fast our animation is going to play. If we're not sprinting, of course, it's going to play ×1, normal speed. But if it is playing, if we're sprinting, it's going to play much faster at 3. So compile and save here, and we're actually going to go to our anim graph. Now we need to open and change our flashlight anim here. So double click and open your state machine. Go to idle. And then over here, if we click on our idle flashlight here, you'll see on the right, we have play rate. If you click bind here and then expose as pin, we can change the play rate as the animation goes. And all you have to do is literally just drag in the play rate here as the variable and compile and save, and that is it. So I actually made a mistake here. It's not supposed to be hold. Hold means you have to hold it for a certain amount of seconds to activate. It's actually going to be down. So we need to change the IA_sprint to down. We need to close it and open the IMC default, and we also need to change that to down. I get them mixed up all the time just because it's so similar, but we're gonna go ahead and demonstrate it now and press play. So now if you hold shift, you're able to sprint, you physically move a lot faster. But now I'll demonstrate it by, if you pick up your flashlight, you'll see the swaying of the hand there, but if you hold shift, you'll see that it speeds up dramatically. And another thing we're going to set up is going to be input lag for your flashlight here, so that when you hold items, they'll sway side to side realistically. Like the camera takes time to catch up with the item. So we can actually set that up right now. It is incredibly easy. So go to your first person character, go to your viewport. We're going to go ahead and add a new item. We're going to add a spring arm. So go ahead and add that spring arm and keep its name. We're going to drag it here onto the mesh, and we're going to drag the follow camera onto the spring arm. Now don't worry if your camera freaks out. We actually just need to go over here to the spring arm. We need to go ahead and choose parent socket and search and do head. So it'll stick to the player's head. And then we need to go ahead and change the target arm length to 0. Go ahead and reset the location and rotation here. We're also on the follow camera going to reset the location and rotation. Now you're going to have to go and set up where the camera is again, unfortunately, but it only takes about 2 seconds. So clicking on the follow camera here, we're going to make sure that rotation is snapped, and we're going to turn it 90 degrees. Turn it 90 degrees again on the X here, and then go ahead into the move, and on the X on location, we're going to drag until it's up at eye level, and then on the Y, we're going to drag until it's right there. Perfect. That is a perfect spot to have it. So go ahead and compile and save here. And then here at the bottom, we're actually going to scroll down, selecting our spring arm. We're going to go ahead and do, where is it? We're going to scroll down here to enable a camera rotation lag here. And we're going to go ahead and set it to 25. So now if you compile and save and play your game, you'll go ahead and see by holding an item that it kind of lags to catch up. And you can go ahead and change that however you like. If you think that it's too snappy, you increase the value. But if you want it to be more snappy, you decrease it. So you can change that as well. Now let's go ahead and fix our character's movement. This is the last thing that we're going to do today. So go ahead and go back into APB Manny, and we're going to go back into the, let me see here, the event graph. Now in the event graph, we're going to leave this. Go ahead and delete this and the branch here, and just connect the rotator offset, and then compile and save. And then we're also, let me see here. So if you want to clamp the float, you absolutely can. So if you play it right now, you'll see that the character is always going to lean up and down with the mesh, so that whenever you get out of the leaning, it doesn't completely screw over your character. And so with the flashlight, it does it as well. The thing that is different here is that, see, like it doesn't do the snapback. I don't know why it's so laggy right now, good Lord. When I look up too, weird. Okay. I think it's just because I'm running OBS and I have a very budget computer. But yeah, it'll move kind of very phasmophobia, and you'll see that it'll stop the flashlight at a certain point. If you go ahead and go back here and delete that, and then plug that right into rotator offset and then play it, then the flashlight can move wherever it wants. So if you prefer that, you can go ahead and do that. But if you want it to clamp and to stop at a certain point, you can go ahead and leave it, or at least change it to where the flashlight can't go straight up and down. I think I'm going to leave it with the flashlight going straight up and down because I actually enjoy that the most. So that's actually going to be it for the end of this tutorial here. So what we have is we have a character that now can use a flashlight more dynamically. I may make another flashlight video in the future, like maybe we can add some dust particles and maybe we can have a more realistic beam. But for now, this is how I'm going to leave the flashlight looking. I'm pretty happy with it and I love the animations. So next video, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set up interacting and opening objects as well as loot spawns. So it will spawn flashlights, it will spawn cameras, it will spawn whatever in drawers. We can also add random objects, but we're going to add loot spawns and then you can pick up random items as well. So we're going to do that. I'm going to provide a cabinet and a drawer mesh that you can use. It won't be top of the line, but later on I'm thinking of producing an asset pack that'll be, it won't be like super expensive, but I'll make an asset pack that you can download that'll be like high fidelity, high amazing looking objects for a combination of all the tutorials so that you can just use them. But normally I will, under my Gumroad, provide some form of asset that you can get for free or pay if you feel that like you want to. I'll normally provide that in the comments below with a base asset that you can use and enjoy. But for now, that's it. And I'll see you in the next one. Don't stay up too late.